Well, hello everyone. I'm so excited to be back again with you here. This is Kari, and I have a really fun Hoppy card to share with you today using the new Be Hoppy stamp set from Heffy Doodle. I'm also going to be using the Build Upon dies and a couple of stencils, but look at this, Don't Worry Be Hoppy. I could not wait to use that sentiment. And this is the Build Upon dies that I'm going to use. I've already cut out the larger one of the ponds, which also comes with a outside border that it cuts out. So this is the outside border piece, and it fits right around that pond. So you can use them both together. You can use one or the other. There's lots of different options. Now this stencil is the new Ripple Wave stencil from Heffy Doodle, and I love it because it doesn't take very much effort at all to get a really great watery look on your cards. I'm going to ink this up with some Distress ink in Speckled Egg so we get kind of a lighter blue shade, and then I'm going to go around with a little bit of darker blue. Now I had previously sprayed this stencil with some Pixie spray, which is a repositionable temporary adhesive spray. However, I've used it so much that some of that adhesive has come off. So I'm kind of holding it here, but Pixie spray really works well with this. And now here's where I bring in that darker shade of ink, and I'm just going to go around the outside of our pond. So we've got some darker and lighter spots to our watery pond here. So there is our pond, and now I'm going to go ahead and ink the background. For the background, I wanted a green background with some repeating elements that I use in our images. So you're going to see how this all comes together. I'm starting off with some Twisted Citron ink, which is a light green, and I'm going to go around all the edges, but you don't need to ink the whole entire thing because that pond is going to cover up a lot of this panel. Now this is an A2 size panel, so it's 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. And then I'm taking some darker green and inking around the edges. This is Pine Needles Distress Oxide, and that's going to give it kind of that misty, kind of swampy look. And I'll come back to that in just a few minutes. But here is where I'm starting to color up those frogs. I'm using some blue greens here for these ones just to give a little variety, and I'm adding some polka dots on this sweet little frog. Now I chose the frogs that look like they were in kind of a yoga pose. I feel like they're ready for their relaxation exercises or their meditations. So these are the ones I chose, and I stamped them a couple of times. I am going to choose 3 of those frogs to use on my card today. And then for this lily pad that he's holding up like an umbrella, I colored it up with some lighter green inks. For this frog, I am going to add the polka dots to his little tummy here. And so that polka dot is going to be our repeating element all throughout this card. I'm also going to add it to our card panel, so you'll see that. But before we do, I am going to go ahead and cut these out with the coordinating dies using my favorite Heffy tape, which is a low tack tape. So it's not going to rip your paper when you pull this off after die cutting. And I'm using my mini Heffy Doodle die cutting machine, which I love to keep right here by my desk so that it's very easy to cut out little images like this. Here's our little frogs. I'm going to go ahead and cut all of them out so I can choose my favorites for this card. So there's our little frogs, some with polka dots on their bodies and some with polka dots on their bellies. And now it's time to add that repeating element to the card panel. I've got this stencil from Heffy Doodle. It's the Circle of Life stencil. It's an older stencil, but I still love it. And I'm going to add those polka dots around the edges using that darker Pine Needles Distress Oxide ink. Now this is going to create that pattern that I'm looking for. And I was going to use a frame, but I thought that it covered up a little too much of the pond. So instead I decided to use the outline of the pond instead. And I also cut out some of the lily pads from that Build Upon die set, and the frogs are going to be sitting on the lily pad. In the end, I decided to use one of the frogs holding the lily pad in the center, and the other two that are just sitting in their meditation pose. And I'm stamping the Don't Worry Be Hoppy sentiment with that dark green oxide ink. And the beautiful thing about oxide ink is it does stay wet a little longer, so it gives you some time to heat emboss that. I've added some clear embossing powder to this, and I'm just going to heat that up here. And so this will be a nice heat embossed sentiment. I'm taking my embossing gun and setting that. And now I'll use my mini trimmer that I love. This is the Heffy Doodle mini trimmer. It's so great for cutting small images like this or sentiments. You can just line it up and see right where you're going to cut, just like so, and then cut perfectly. Just this small little piece, just like that. So I cut out my sentiment and I'm going to back it with some green paper. And now it's time to put this whole thing together. I'll start by gluing those frogs to the lily pads, and that's going to make it easier for me to pop these images up with foam tape. So this will be a little bit dimensional. Having those frogs pop right off that background is going to really make this card something fun. So I'll add that foam tape to the frogs, and then I'll add those frogs in a row across that pond. Have you ever done yoga on a paddleboard? I have seen that, but I don't think I would have enough balance to stay on and not fall into the water. Well, these frogs are pretty balanced because they're doing their yoga right on their little lily pads here. I'm already feeling calmer just watching this happy, hoppy, relaxing scene. I'm going to use my tweezers to help me place those in a sort of a line, and then I'll go ahead and add those other little flowers. I've colored up the flowers with a dark blue ink. So we've got the blues and the greens going on, which are some of my favorite relaxing colors. I'm also just going to glue down that sentiment directly to the pond and then add the flowers with liquid adhesive as well. So the only thing popping up is going to be the frogs. They've got little smiles on their faces as well. They're super happy. And then liquid adhesive for the pond itself and also the surrounding outline of that pond. It's very simple to put together. I just love these dies from Heffy Doodle. It makes making a card very, very simple. And there we go. So we've got all our polka dots, we've got our meditating frogs, and now just to place that on the card panel or the card base here, I'm using 110-pound card weight cardstock. That's going to make this nice and sturdy and a really fun card to send to anyone. This may be going to my sister. She loves frogs. So I thought of her as I was making this. So that is our card for today. I hope you did enjoy this little look at some repeating polka dots, meditating frogs, and the most calm pond area ever. Thanks so much for stopping by. We'll see you real soon with another card inspiration video. All the supplies I've linked below if you want to check those out. Until next time, happy crafting. Bye-bye.